Philly Fingers here, playing 5-pin billiards. I'll first give a brief description of the rules, and then we'll jump right into a match. Like most billiard games, this game is played with 2 cue balls. One yellow for the opponent, one white for yourself, and a red object ball. It is also played with 5 pins, one red that's placed at the center, and 4 whites that surround the red. The object of the game is to reach a certain number of points before your opponent. For example, if you're playing to 30, 50, etc. There are many different ways you can score, but in all shots, you must hit your opponent's cue ball first. The number of rails you hit after doesn't matter in this game. It's not like 3-cushion billiards. A standard break is attempting to hit the opponent's cue ball off of 2 rails into the pile of pins. If the opponent's cue ball strikes the red pin, and that's the only one to fall, the red pin is worth 10 points. Taking a look at a different break shot, if your opponent's cue ball goes around, let's say 4 rails, and knocks down any of the whites, you will get 2 points for each of the white pins. Anytime your opponent's cue ball strikes the red, but also knocks down a white at the same time, the red is now worth 4 points, not 10, and you still get 2 points for each white pin. You don't only have to hit the pins to score. In this example, your opponent's cue ball can not only hit pins, but if it contacts the red object ball would be 3 points, as well as however many points you get for the pins that you've knocked. And finally, if after striking your opponent's cue ball, your cue ball strikes the red, then the red is worth 4 points, plus you would get the points for any pins that you've also knocked. Now to see this in action, and to give it more context, I'll show a video of a match between myself and Chef in a race to 30. An important thing to note in 5-pin billiards is that unlike other games where after making a ball or scoring a point, you get to continue playing and you continue your turn, in this game you do not. You always get one turn and then it passes off to your opponent, and you constantly will switch back and forth. So you always get just one attempt. So for every shot, you are looking to not only score, but you're looking to play defense at the same time. And hopefully, after you score, you've left your opponent in a position where they can't clearly see the other cue ball. In this shot here, I make my opponent's cue ball hit the red for 3 points, plus I knock down the red for 4, and then another white for another 2. So the tricky part of this game is deciding, do you want to go for a lot of points, do you want to play defense, or do you want to play a 2-way shot? In this last shot, yes, I went for the offensive points, scored 9, but I didn't really block my opponent. My opponent has a clear bank shot, so that's really where the strategy comes in. Whether you want to get a little offensive, a little defensive, or try to play more 2-way shots. Here my opponent will simply bank my cue ball back over to the red, which gives him another 3 points. So same as I did, he went for the points, but he didn't really play defense where he didn't block me. I can obviously see the yellow cue ball. In a perfect world for the advanced players, not only do you score the points, but the idea is to leave the cue ball behind the pin set so that the opponent is forced to have to kick at it. This leaves me a pretty simple shot where I can just have the cue ball hit the red and score another 3 points. Another important rule to note is that it's not a called shot game. In this case, slop or flukes can happen. As you see here, a lucky double kiss manages to push the cue ball through the pile and gives him 8 points. Keep in mind, the only way to score is by driving your opponent's cue ball into the pins. However, if it's your cue ball that makes contact with any pin and knocks them down, that's a foul, and those points would then be awarded to your opponent. Here's an example of a different type of foul. Here I'm trying to spin the ball very carefully, but I miss hit. Because I miss cue, I actually end up jumping the ball. I jump the ball right into the red pin, and since the red pin is the only one that falls, I will award him 10 points. If the red and a white fell, the red would have been 4 points and he would have gotten 2 points for the white. We also will leave the cue balls where they lie. Here you'll see the first example of a defensive shot, where Chef will take his cue ball, strike my cue ball, with no real intent to hit the pins, although if they would have hit, that would have been great, but it was more about position, putting me on the opposite end of the pins, which now forces me to have to kick at the yellow cue ball. With a shot like this, my first goal is just to make contact and not foul. I would have loved to leave him behind the pins, but sadly I didn't. I left him an obvious, very easy, straightforward bank shot. Here, unfortunately, my opponent misses the bank shot. He gives the cue ball the opposite English, which reverses it and pulls the cue ball to the rail as opposed to towards the pins. This now leaves me a very interesting shot where I can go straight into the pins and score that way, but I prefer to go for a two-way shot. In this case, I'd rather hit the yellow, bank off the rails, make contact with the red for 4 points, and then get position. And this is the key for this two-way shot, is I got some points, but I put the cue right in the corner, I leave the yellow on the opposite end of the pins, and now he's forced to have to kick. So now let's talk about fouls. What happens if you do not hit a ball at all? You just miss it completely, you never make contact with the ball. Well, in that case, it would be minus 2 points. 2 points would go to your opponent. In terms of whether you then get ball in hand or you leave the ball as is, I've seen it played both ways. So it really depends on what house rules are you playing under. Since he's blocked by the pins, he has to kick, obviously. So now it's a matter of deciding, are we going to go slow and hit just 2 rails, or go hard, try to come around the whole table, perhaps 6 rails, and kick into the white. Either way would work, but you got to be confident with that stroke. He kind of hits it in between, where he's attempting to go around the 6 rails, but as you can see, hits it way too soft that the ball is never going to reach. So this would be a foul, and that gives me 2 extra points. This now sets me up with a shot where I can win the match. I not only strike the cue into the red for 4 points, but I have his cue go into the pins. That gives me a total 32, which wins me the match. That's my take on 5-pin billiards. Till next time.